Hey everyone, it's Chad and I'm back with another video. In today's review video, we're going to talk a little bit about NFL playoff action last week and some of the favorite things I saw from last weekend's games in the NFL. We're going to talk about LeBron going against his former team in the Cavaliers and just absolutely dominating them. And we're also going to talk about the Rams and Lions trade that just went down yesterday and, some of my favorite things from that trade. So with that being said, I'm ready to talk some sports. So let's get right into it. So let's kick things off talking about the AFC Championship game. So last weekend, the Bills and Chiefs dueled it out for a spot in the AFC spot in the Super Bowl. And obviously the Chiefs prevailed and Mahomes is going back to a Super Bowl to try and start a dynasty there in Kansas City with his young career. But with the red hot Bills, they came in. I was personally rooting for them, so sucks to see that they lost. But the one thing that I really found interesting at the end of the game was, they were showing the post-game celebration and the trophy presentation for the Kansas City Chiefs, as they do after every conference title game with the winner. And all the Bills players were off of the field except for one man, and that was Stefon Diggs. And so with Stefon Diggs, I loved him as a Viking, and obviously I loved seeing how successful he's been with Buffalo, and he's probably a big reason why I've been rooting for them. But I think it showed a lot of maturity from Stefon Diggs where, through that trophy presentation, he was still on the field, still standing there and still watching. And so just looking at the pictures and the video, you can really see that he's determined to get to that spot someday. And so next season, he's definitely going to be really motivated, really determined to continue what they've got going on here. And so as long as Josh Allen keeps on improving and Diggs has another good season next year, I think the Bills will be right back here and eventually can get to that big game. But a lot of things can change in the NFL, and you never quite know for sure. But back to Stefon Diggs in that moment, I think it was just, it was a kind of a humbling experience for him. And another one, to be honest, because, a few years ago, the Vikings were one game away and they got destroyed by the Eagles, and Diggs was on that team. And, last year, obviously, the 49ers ran all over the Vikings. And so Diggs' opportunities in the playoffs, he hasn't had much luck in them. And so this year felt a little bit different, but ultimately had the same result. And so, hopefully, this gives him another perspective and another learning opportunity and another opportunity for growth. And I've really been impressed with, the maturity and, how much Diggs has grown in this new environment with the Bills. So I'm rooting for him still. And that was just something cool to see. Now, on the NFC side of things, it was a really great showdown between Tom Brady and the Buccaneers and Aaron Rodgers and the Packers in Lambeau Field. And so, the first half of the game, Buccaneers kind of controlled it for the most part. And Brady just had an incredible throw at the end of the first half to just go for it and really extend the lead. But in the second half, it was kind of flipped where the Packers gained a lot of momentum. A few mistakes from Brady kept them in the game, and they were in it all the way up until the end. And some weird coaching decisions here and there just helped the Packers fall short. And, there were a few blown calls throughout the game and missed penalties or called penalties and a lot of inconsistencies there with officiating. But that's kind of the story with a lot of NFL games, and it only gets amplified every year, on that playoff stage. So it doesn't really surprise me too much that's, one of the takeaways from the games. But, in my opinion, it still doesn't take anything away from the fact that Brady is going to another Super Bowl. And, I think a lot of the NFL world was a little excited when he left the Patriots to kind of see, not only the Patriots, get rid of that long-term success that they've had and give other teams a chance, but also with Brady to see if, maybe he wouldn't do so well with the new team. But what else is new? Brady's back in the Super Bowl. And so I think it's just interesting for him to have that 1 year of, just getting right back in the playoffs, getting right back to the Super Bowl. And if he wins the Super Bowl title this year against a really good Chiefs team, I think that kind of just solidifies his legacy as the best to ever do it. I think it's already solidified, but I think you're really going to be hard-pressed to find an argument against him if he wins it again this year. And so, the more things change, the more they stay the same, and that's definitely true in the NFL with the Buccaneers and Brady going on to face Mahomes in what should be a very interesting Super Bowl. Part of me thinks that the Chiefs might be able to run away with it, but I'm still rooting for Brady and still rooting for the Buccaneers to win. Now, on the NBA side of things, we're going to talk about LeBron and what else is new. LeBron is, in his 18th year, I believe, and he's still playing, at the top of his level and maybe as great as he's ever played. Factoring in last season and this season, with the Lakers, they're still dominant contenders. And the best game that I saw this last week was the Lakers going into Cleveland, and LeBron just absolutely took over against his hometown team. And so, he finished the game with 46 points. 21 of those points came in the fourth quarter. So it was just really a fun game to watch, especially at the end where he just took over and put the team on his back. And, even with those 21 points in the fourth quarter, those were more than the entire Cavs team scored in the final period. So, it was just another great example of how LeBron is here to stay. He's not going anywhere. He could very well be playing into his 40s and still be playing at a level, if not at this level, something very close to it. So at the end of the day, at the end of the season, the Lakers are going to be right there as contenders, and they're probably one of the favorites to win it right now and repeat. And so that was just a fun game to watch. And, the Cavs themselves, they have a decent young team, but still a lot of areas to kind of work on and improve on to gain some consistency and reach the Eastern Conference playoffs. Now, the last interesting thing I saw this week was a trade that literally just happened yesterday between the Los Angeles Rams and the Detroit Lions, where they basically just swapped quarterbacks and a little bit of draft compensation, where Matthew Stafford is going from the Lions to the Rams and Jared Goff is going from the Rams to the Lions. So what I really like about this trade is Matthew Stafford finally gets a chance to go to a team that has a little bit of experience winning, has a lot of support around him, has a lot of pieces around him to help him succeed right away. And I think he really is going to. I think the Rams are going to be a team that, they might struggle a little bit at the beginning of the year, but I think they're going to be a team that can find their way to the playoffs with Matthew Stafford. And he just brings a ceiling and, some offensive firepower that Jared Goff doesn't bring. Jared Goff, he's a decent quarterback, but he needs a lot of things around him to be going well to be successful. And hopefully, going to Detroit, it'll be a nice change of pace for him. He's still young. He still has a lot of years to improve. But it is going to be hard for him to go to a new head coach, new management, and still kind of figuring out what that team identity is with a lot of decisions they have to make. I think Goff will at least be the starter next year. I think they'll have a little bit of a leash on him, but I'm hoping for success for Goff and hoping for success for Stafford as well. And, with being a fan of the Vikings and having Stafford in my division every year, it's going to be nice to not have him around because he's always been a tough quarterback to play against. And, no matter what's around him, he's always kept games competitive. And, with the Rams, he finally has a great defense around him. He has some really good weapons in Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods, Cam Akers, those different types of things. So I think Sean McVay, the young offensive genius, is going to work wonders with the Stafford, even though he's up there in age. I really like this trade. And with the Lions, along with getting Goff, they have some draft capital they earned with that. So they do have a little bit of an ability to maybe draft a young quarterback to sit behind Goff and kind of build for the future there too, while getting rid of Stafford in that contract too. So I think it's a decent deal for both sides, but more excited about the Stafford side. So that's going to be it for today's video. Obviously a little bit NFL heavy with the stories this week, but still kind of keeping my eye out on other things around sports as well. So if you saw anything cool in sports this last week, feel free to mention that in the comments down below, and subscribe the video and support me any way possible as I start to gain a little bit more momentum on this channel and try to find ways every week to improve it a little bit here and there. So thank you everyone for watching, and there's always some good sports on every week. So with that being said, go out and enjoy your sports.